In the mid-1980s, Duty Free turned airport chaos and British awkwardness into irresistible comedy. But behind the laughter, the cast faced a far harsher reality. Some vanished from the spotlight, some died in silence, while others rose to unimaginable wealth. This is Duty Free, then and now, and what happened to them will shock you. Keith Barron as David Pierce. Keith Barron was born on August 8, 1934, in Mexborough, West Riding of Yorkshire, England. At 50 years old, he played David Pierce, the polite, romantic British husband in Duty Free, 1984 to 1986. That role gave the sitcom its emotional center, grounding the comedy in believable marriage and quiet irony. That calm, composed image hit a childhood shaped by pressure and restraint. Barron grew up in a working-class family in post-war England, where expectations were practical and emotional expression was limited. After school, he completed national service in the Royal Air Force, then turned to acting as a way out, beginning on stage at Sheffield Repertory Theatre and later breaking through on television with The Odd Man and stand-up, Nigel Barton. Stability in his career did not mean ease at home. In 1959, Barron married stage designer Mary Pickard, and they had a son together, Jamie. While his profile rose through projects like Upstairs, Downstairs, and constant television work, the demands of filming schedules and touring theater placed strain on the marriage. Barron later admitted they learned to live with rather than solve. In his later years, he was living in East Molesey, Surrey, and also kept a home in Cornwall. However, health quietly became an issue. Those close to Barron confirmed he fell ill suddenly after decades of steady work. The illness progressed quickly, cutting short what many assumed would be a gradual step back rather than an abrupt stop. Sadly, he died on November 15, 2017, at the age of 83, following a short illness. His estimated £5 million net worth reflected a lifetime of consistent television, radio, and stage work, leaving behind a legacy built on endurance rather than headlines. Gwen Taylor as Amy Pierce. Gwen Taylor was born on February 19, 1939, in Critch, Derbyshire, England. At 45 years old, she played Amy Pierce, the sharp-tongued, emotionally alert wife in Duty Free, 1984 to 1986. Her presence sharpened the series, turning everyday marital friction into its most memorable source of humor. That confidence was not a given from the start. Taylor grew up in a stable but cautious household and initially chose security, working in banking instead of acting. Giving that up to train at East 15 Acting School meant financial stress and family resistance, but it led to steady work on stage and screen, including Life of Brian and later A Bit of a Do. Her private life reflected similar uncertainty. Taylor's first marriage to Frederick Blount ended in divorce after only a few years, a personal setback that coincided with her early career struggles. It was not until 1996 that she found lasting balance after marrying playwright Graham Reed, a period that aligned with long-running success on shows like Barbara and Heartbeat. Health became her greatest test in 2014 when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. Taylor underwent surgery, followed by 3 weeks of radiotherapy, forcing her to step away from work and confront the possibility that her career might end on her own terms, or not at all. She later spoke about recovery as both physically exhausting and emotionally clarifying. Today, Gwen Taylor is 87 years old and living a quieter life while remaining active in selective acting projects and public appearances. With an estimated £3 million net worth, earned through decades of television, film, and theater, she stands as a reminder that longevity in the industry often comes through persistence, reinvention, and survival, rather than constant success. Joanna Van Gyseghem as Linda Cochran. Joanna Van Gyseghem was born on September 4, 1941, in Tunbridge Wells, Kent, England. At 43 years old, she played Linda Cochran, the elegant, subtly provocative Englishwoman in Duty Free, 1984 to 1986. Her role injected quiet tension into the series, reshaping the balance between comedy and emotional rivalry. That controlled confidence was formed early under pressure. Growing up during wartime Britain in a family with deep theatrical roots, Joanna faced strong expectations while studying at Malvern Girls' College and later Trinity College, Dublin. Choosing acting over academic stability was a risk, but early stage work and television appearances such as BBC Play of the Month and Fraud Squad confirmed her screen presence and discipline. Her personal life intersected closely with her career. In 1964, she married actor Ralph Bates, whom she met at university, and they frequently worked within the same theatrical circles. As her profile grew through productions like Rumpole of the Bailey and later Pig in the Middle, the marriage struggled under professional pressure and ended in divorce in 1973. During the years surrounding Duty Free, Joanna leaned into consistency rather than reinvention. Instead of chasing leading roles, she built a reputation for reliability and sophistication, appearing in projects such as Secret Army and later EastEnders, proving she could move between eras of British television without losing relevance. Now, Joanna Van Gyseghem is 85 years old and living a private, withdrawn life away from the spotlight. With an estimated £2 million net worth, earned through decades of steady stage and television work, her legacy lies in longevity and restraint rather than scandal or awards. Neil Stacy as Robert Cochran. Neil Stacy was born on May 15, 1941, in Stowupland, Suffolk, England. At 43 years old, he played Robert Cochran, the reserved, practical husband in Duty Free, 1984 to 1986. His quiet performance grounded the sitcom, providing contrast to the emotional volatility around him. That restraint was shaped by his early path into acting. Raised in rural England, Stacy began in local theater, facing intense competition and limited opportunities before breaking into television. Roles in The Quatermass Conclusion and To Serve Them. All My Days helped establish his credibility as a dependable character actor rather than a leading star. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Stacy avoided publicity and focused on craft. During the same period he appeared in Duty Free, he made unconventional career choices, including turning down a role in Doctor Who. This decision quietly defined his reputation as an actor who valued control more than exposure. As mainstream television shifted in the 1990s, Stacy transitioned into selective work, appearing in productions such as Get Well Soon while expanding his academic interests as a historian. The move reduced his on-screen presence, but allowed him to sustain a stable professional life outside celebrity culture. By 2026, Neil Stacy is 85 years old and living quietly in England, residing in a National Trust property in Gloucester. His estimated £1.5 million net worth, built through television, theater, and scholarly work, reflects a career shaped by deliberate choices rather than constant reinvention. Carlos Douglas as Carlos the Waiter. Carlos Douglas was born on December 26, 1935, in Spain. At 49 years old, he played Carlos the Waiter, the ever-present, quietly observant hotel waiter in Duty Free, 1984 to 1986. His role became a subtle engine of the show's humor, punctuating scenes with timing and restraint rather than punchlines. The man behind that calm presence carried an unsettled beginning. Born into a Europe reshaped by war and migration, Douglas moved from Spain to England at a young age, navigating language barriers and cultural displacement. Those early disruptions pushed him toward discipline and adaptability, traits that later helped him find work on British television through small but steady appearances such as Dixon of Dock Green and The Flying Swan. Douglas never broke through as a leading man, and that reality shaped his career choices. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, he accepted supporting roles that kept him employed rather than visible, including Affairs of the Heart. In Duty Free, that approach paid off. His waiter became a familiar face audiences trusted, even when his name rarely appeared in headlines. As television trends shifted, opportunities narrowed. Douglas continued to work intermittently, but the industry increasingly favored younger faces and louder personalities. He remained largely out of the spotlight, relying on consistency rather than reinvention to sustain his livelihood. Sadly, he died on December 18, 2004, at the age of 68 in Buckinghamshire, England. His estimated £500,000 net worth reflected a lifetime of modest but honest work, leaving behind the quiet legacy of a character actor who helped define an era without ever demanding attention. George Camiller as hotel manager. George Camiller was born on November 30, 1942, in Surrey, England. At 42 years old, he played the hotel manager, the composed authority figure overseeing the chaos in Duty Free, 1984 to 1986. His presence added structure to the series, anchoring the holiday absurdity in recognizable order. That authority grew out of an early struggle with identity. Raised in England by Italian parents, Camiller learned to navigate cultural tension and outsider status from a young age. Training at the Central School of Speech and Drama placed him among future stars, but early roles often leaned on his accent and heritage rather than range. Breakthrough came with Mind Your Language, where his portrayal of Giovanni Capello turned cultural stereotype into comedy with warmth and control. The success of that series opened doors to film work such as The Message and The Hunger, allowing Camiller to move between television comedy and international cinema during the same period he appeared in Duty Free. Rather than chase stardom, Camiller focused on steady work. He accepted character roles that kept him visible across decades, preferring longevity to risk. This choice limited headline recognition but ensured continuity in an industry known for short careers. By 2026, George Camiller is 84 years old and living quietly in England. With an estimated £1 million net worth, built through long-running television roles and selective film work, he remains remembered as a dependable presence. Fraser Hines as Fraser Hines. Fraser Hines was born on September 22, 1944, in Horsforth, Yorkshire, England. At 40 years old, he played Fraser Hines, appearing as himself in Duty Free, 1984. That brief presence worked as a knowing wink to audiences, folding a familiar television face into the show's holiday world without stealing focus. That ease on screen was earned early. Raised in a large family that moved to Harrogate where his mother ran a boarding house, Hines entered performing young and learned discipline fast. Training in London placed him among future stars, and steady early work led to defining roles such as Doctor Who as Jamie McCrimmon, and later Emmerdale. Successes that demanded stamina and consistency rather than sudden reinvention. Marriage brought its own pressures alongside fame. Hines married actress Gemma Craven, but the relationship ended as career demands pulled them in different directions. During the same period, he carried long-running commitments on Emmerdale while returning to Doctor Who specials, a workload that left little space for stability at home. Health became a turning point later. Hines revealed he had battled colorectal cancer for more than a decade, keeping the diagnosis private while continuing to work across television, theater, and audio dramas connected to Doctor Who. Recovery shifted his priorities, pushing him toward selective projects and advocacy rather than constant visibility. Today, Fraser Hines is 82 years old and remains active through conventions, audio productions, and occasional screen work. With an estimated £2.5 million net worth, built across a lifetime that bridged child stardom and cult television history, he stands as a rare example of endurance that survived fame, illness, and changing eras. Tony Selby as Charlie. Tony Selby was born on February 26, 1938, in Chelsea, London, England. At 48 years old, he played Charlie in Duty Free, 1986. His appearance added rough-edged contrast to the series, injecting working-class grit into a setting built on leisure and escape. That grit was learned early. Growing up in Pimlico in a family tied to taxis and musical performance, Selby began entertaining wounded soldiers at age 7. Formal training at Italia Conti sharpened his instincts, and decades of work followed, from villain to get some in, roles that leaned on toughness rather than charm. Family life ran parallel to a relentless schedule. Selby married Jackie Milburn in 1964, raising 2 children before the marriage ended in divorce. He later married Gina Sellers in 1986, a period that overlapped with renewed visibility through Doctor Who as Sabalom Glitz, balancing personal rebuilding with renewed professional momentum. Work never truly slowed. Selby continued across film, television, theater, and radio, earning respect for range and reliability rather than celebrity. Roles in Doctor Who, EastEnders, and later television kept him present across generations, even as the industry changed around him. Sadly, he died on September 5, 2021, at the age of 83, after contracting COVID-19 and suffering complications. He passed away in London. His estimated £3 million net worth reflected more than 7 decades of continuous work, leaving a legacy defined by resilience, volume, and unwavering commitment to the craft. Damaris Hayman as Lady Stoney Jackson. Damaris Hayman was born on June 16, 1929, in Kensington, London, England. At 57 years old, she played Lady Stoney Jackson, the imperious, exquisitely mannered aristocrat in Duty Free, 1986. The role sharpened the show's satire, turning class and eccentricity into a memorable comedic weapon. That commanding presence grew out of pressure-filled beginnings. Raised between Lancashire and Cheltenham in a household led by a barrister father, Hayman faced strict academic expectations while nurturing a pull toward performance. Drama classes led her to repertory theater and early film work, then steady television exposure that built authority through craft, with appearances such as The Bells of St. Trinian's and later Steptoe and Son. As her reputation solidified, Hayman became a trusted foil for Britain's biggest comic voices. Working across The Dick Emery Show and later returning to cult status with Doctor Who as Miss Hawthorne in The Demons, 1971, she proved how a single, well-calibrated character could dominate a scene. In later years, Hayman continued selectively, revisiting beloved roles and maintaining ties to the worlds that shaped her. Projects like the Duty-Free Christmas Special and the revival White Witch of Devil's End extended her influence, showing that longevity defined her path. Damaris Hayman died on June 3, 2021 in Gloucester, England, at the age of 91, shortly before her 92nd birthday. No widely publicized burial details followed. Her estimated £1 million net worth reflected 7 decades of steady work, leaving a legacy of elegance, eccentricity, and the rare ability to make a single entrance unforgettable. Philip Fox as Neville. Philip Fox was born in 1964 in England. At 20 years old, he played Neville, the awkward, quietly observant young man in Duty Free, 1984. Though not a leading role, his presence added a softer, offbeat comic layer that subtly refreshed the show's ensemble dynamic. That understated tone reflected the position Fox occupied early in his career. Entering the industry young, he faced the challenge of standing out in an era dominated by established sitcom stars. Instead of immediate recognition, he built experience through varied work, gradually sharpening a comic style that leaned on timing and restraint, later visible in projects like The Blackadder pilot and Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Career momentum came through persistence rather than a single breakout. Fox became a familiar face across British television with roles in People Like Us, Maurice, Waking the Dead, Midsummer Murders, and Foyle's War. Around the same time, he developed a long collaboration with producer Clive Doig, appearing in children's programs such as Eureka and Eat Your Words, which expanded his range and audience reach. Parallel to screen work, Fox carved out a substantial radio career. His performances for BBC Radio 4, including adaptations of Terry Pratchett's Mort and Small Gods, showcased vocal versatility and sustained relevance even when on-screen roles fluctuated. These projects reinforced his reputation as a dependable character actor across mediums. Today, Philip Fox is 62 years old and continues to work selectively in television, radio, and voice projects. With an estimated £1.5 million net worth, accumulated through decades of steady acting rather than headline fame, his career stands as a testament to longevity built on adaptability, craft, and quiet consistency. Ray Mort, as George Ray Mort, was born on January 10, 1926, in Bury, Lancashire, England. At 58 years old, he played George, the gruff, working-class presence cutting through the holiday polish of Duty Free, 1984. His role added weight and realism, reminding viewers that not everyone in the resort world was there to escape reality. That grounded quality came from a difficult early backdrop. Growing up in Lancashire during and after the Second World War, Mort experienced the uncertainty and economic strain of post-war Britain. Those years shaped his attachment to ordinary people and everyday struggles, themes that later defined his acting. Entering repertory theatre in Yorkshire and Lancashire, he learned to survive on discipline rather than opportunity, slowly building credibility through relentless touring work. Career progress came through persistence, not breakthrough fame. Mort became a familiar face on British television in the 1960s and 1970s, moving between drama and comedy with ease. Roles in play for today, notably The Fishing Party, and the sitcom Oh No, It's Selwyn Froggatt, established him as a dependable character actor, while his appearance in Pink Floyd The Wall, 1982, showed his ability to step into darker, more symbolic material. By the time he appeared in Duty Free, Mort had already accepted his place in the industry. He worked constantly but quietly, taking supporting roles in shows like Only Fools and Horses and All Creatures Great and Small. These performances rarely brought recognition, yet they kept him employed in an industry that often discarded actors of his generation. Sadly, he died on July 4, 1994, at the age of 68. His estimated £400,000 net worth reflected a lifetime of steady but unglamorous work, leaving behind the legacy of a working actor whose strength was reliability, not spotlight. Ricardo Montez as Patrol. Ricardo Montez was born on September 20, 1923 in Gibraltar. At 61 years old, he played Patrol, the uniformed authority figure briefly cutting across the resort routine in Duty Free, 1984. Though small, the role added texture, reinforcing the show's contrast between carefree tourism and order. That grounded presence traced back to an unsettled start. Born Levi Isaac Attias into a Jewish family, Montez was evacuated to England during the Second World War, a rupture that reshaped his identity and future. Returning to Gibraltar meant piecing life back together through odd jobs and film extra work, until acting offered a way forward. Appearances on British television followed, steadily building toward recognition through roles that leaned on authenticity rather than flash. Marriage and work moved in parallel. In 1953, he married Oravida Hatchwell, and together they raised a daughter, Clara. As family life stabilized, his career found its signature with Mind Your Language, where Juan Cervantes became a fixture across seasons, while other credits, The Saint and the Avengers, kept him visible as a reliable character presence. Illness marked his final chapter. Montez continued to accept roles into later life, including a small but notable appearance in Mamma Mia, 2008, even as cancer advanced. Work slowed from lack of the limits imposed by treatment and declining strength. Ricardo Montez died on October 26, 2010, at the age of 87, from cancer at his daughter's home in Marbella, Spain. His estimated £700,000 net worth reflected decades of steady television work, an enduring career built on resilience, cultural memory, and the quiet impact of a familiar face. Decades after Duty Free first aired, Its cast tells a far more complicated story than light comedy ever suggested. Careers that endured, lives reshaped by loss, and legacies that quietly faded or survived against the odds. Looking back at where they started and where they ended up now, one question lingers. Which cast member's journey surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more then and now stories from classic television.